and welcome to the annual Jimquisition Awards, the only award show. Right, we've got a wonderful show packed up for you. We've got thrills, we've got other things that rhyme with thrills, we've got awards, and we've got sponsorships. Which really, I mean, you don't even need the awards, to be honest. What's important is we got the sponsorships. So look forward to world premieres and commercials, and I guess we'll do some awards. Let's do our first one. Who's it going to be? Who's going to be one of the Games of the Year 2018? Why, it's God of War! God of War is a lavishly produced, visually gorgeous, mechanically sound, single-player story-driven experience in the AAA market space, which makes it something of a holdout in an industry obsessed with sandbox-flavoured, online-centric live services that exist purely to be monetized. God of War is a powerful reminder of what video games can be when a major publisher actually commits to making one. A beautifully paced game that builds up its characters and plot to an appropriate crescendo, giving us something memorable among all the disposable rubbish that so cynically gets churned out with increasingly frequent fervour. With the Spartan Kratos having murdered all of his own gods, he's moved on to Norse mythology to kick the shit out of that lot too. The years have seen Kratos mellow out, however. He has a son now, and he's starting to realise there might be a bit more to life than fighting massive half-naked people and cutting them to bits. It was a bold, perhaps controversial move to make a God of War with a sense of empathy and introspection, but the game's attempt to be a deeper, more rounded experience perfectly mirrors the endeavours of the game's protagonist, and I dare say both character and game have come out better for it. Aside from a terrific story full of mythological deep cuts and an intriguingly motivated antagonist in Baldur, God of War's gameplay is masterful to boot. The world isn't exactly open, but it has a lot of exploration value, coming across as something akin to a pre-Breath of the Wild Zelda. There are loads of hidden areas and optional encounters, while the combat itself is fantastic. This God of War brings players closer to the action than before, creating a more frantic feel, with Kratos flinging his axe at opponents before rushing in for some viciously rendered violence. The camera work is especially good, perfectly positioned to focus on whatever's important and adding a little extra dynamism to a fight. And who could forget Boy, everybody's favourite new character and the centre of some wonderful double-team combat manoeuvres. God of War is a stunning, evocative, ambitious, big-budget game, the kind that should be cherished because Lord only knows how many major publishers want to stop making these kinds of games altogether. Boy. Right, what's up next? What is our next Jimquisition Award winner? I thought it might be this, because I already know what they are. I wrote the script for this already. It's Dead Cells, everyone. Put that back in there, I'll pull it out again later. It's Dead Cells. There are many indie action platformers with roguelike elements, but Dead Cells is one that's good. Not just that, it stands out like few others could claim, propelled by fast-paced, subtly strategic combat, some effectively Souls-like world-building, and a gorgeously detailed menagerie of monsters. You explore randomly generated levels on each run, acquiring powerful weapons and abilities as you progress, mostly hoping you find something awesome like a turret trap in order to help chew up increasingly deadly enemies from a distance. Though not even that may be able to save you from some of the tougher customers. Goddamn steers going right through the walls! Like the very best games of its genre, permadeath is balanced out by unlockable gear and bonuses that persist into new attempts, while risk and reward choices keep you wondering whether to save up your hard-won cells for bigger prizes or spend them on more immediate stuff rather than take a chance on dying and losing them forever. Dead Cells is simply a ton of fun to play, effectively capturing that one more go feel as death drops you right back at the start with the promise of yet more rewards to grab. It can be an intimidating game at first, with opponents that hit hard hard and traps that offer scant mercy, but after a couple of runs to familiarise yourself with the unforgiving world and unlocking an extra healing potion or two, Dead Cells is very difficult to put down once started. Antagonising bosses, similar to a game like The Binding of Isaac, encourage you to beat them out of sheer determination, letting the player know that success is perfectly possible. You just need to keep at it and maybe pray to the random number god that you'll get something cool. There are loads of weapons and traps to utilise, some of them amazing, some of them best avoided, but there's a ton of joy to be had in experimenting and working toward the right character build for your playstyle. Turrets. Dead Cells is a thoroughly replayable action platformer with an arresting visual and audio style. It's bloody brilliant, mate. For God's sake. You told me we'd be filming these in LA this year. The next award is Octopath Traveler. We're supposed to believe that nobody wants traditional turn-based Japanese role-playing games anymore. Square Enix has spent so long trying to avoid making such games, transforming Final Fantasy into some new and bizarre action hybrid with each sequel, but every now and then it goes back to its roots with a less mainstream title, and it's always surprised to see that tons of people actually buy the fucker. So it was with Bravely Default, now it is with Octopath Traveler, a proper old-fashioned turn-based JRPG with an incredible soundtrack, surprisingly good voice acting, in my opinion, I know not everyone agrees, and a fun story that doesn't take full advantage of its 8-protagonist gimmick, but nonetheless contains some distinctly lovely little narratives. While many expected more interweaving of stories, what we have is nonetheless a role player that's refreshing in its traditionalism. A case where you can quite legitimately say, they don't make them like that anymore. The turn-based combat is terrific. It boasts a light strategic element of exploiting enemy weaknesses and timing them just right with your own character's ability to save their turns and invest them into stronger moves, and it's just bloody rewarding. By hitting an enemy with its Achilles heel enough times, you'll shatter its shield, leaving it stunned and open to attack, and it never really gets old. With 8 distinctive characters to utilise, the power to mix and match their abilities, and unique skills that let you pickpocket, learn intel from, or even recruit the game's many NPCs, there's a ton to do and find in Octopath Traveler, as there should be in any classic JRPG. That's useful, because that's what Octopath Traveler is, a downright classic. Humph. And now, a corporate-sponsored Christmas carol from the cornflake homunculus, America's most beloved mascot. Now I'd like to wind things down a little bit, scale it back and look at a little-known indie title. Jesus, alright! We'll get back to some AAA stuff soon! Just let me talk about the Hex right now. The Hex comes from Daniel Mullins Games, the developer of Pony Island, which should give you some clue as to what's going on with this game and why it's on this list of my best of the year. Nominally an adventure game, The Hex tells 6 stories of video game protagonists that have found themselves at the 6 Pint Inn. Each character representative of their own particular genre. There's the washed-up 90s style mascot platformer, the fighting game character who claims he's from a cooking sim, the RPG sorceress, etc. Each story uses only the WASD keys and a mouse click to tell each tale in a new genre, something it pulls off with shocking success. To go into too much detail with the Hex would be to spoil a ton of it, of course, but suffice to say that this, like Pony Island, takes you on a hell of an unexpected ride. Even going into it knowing the studio's past work won't be enough to predict the directions it goes in. A running theme of the Hex is the relationship between game and game player, how entertainment responds to and can be shaped by audience expectations, which is fitting for a game that had a momentous task of following Pony Island. But the Hex is very much its own beast, standing apart from prior work and making its mark as an inventive, ingenious production. It's worth checking out to see a platformer, a fighting game and a tactical RPG in the same place, using the same control scheme and somehow working out just great. The Hex is, dare I say it? I dare. Hexemplary. And now we come to my favourite part of the show. Even though all of the awards are equal, it's the last award. That doesn't actually mean it's better. It's not actually my favourite part of the show, because even though it is kind of my favourite one, that's why I saved it for the end. But that isn't what it's about. All of these awards are, that's why I've put some indie ones, as well as the AAA ones, so they're all created equal, and everyone can enjoy the games while telling me that I'm a piece of shit for having not put Celeste on my list. Fist of the North Star! Ah-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Ah-ta-ta-ta.
Mix, 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 mix. Perfect! You are already drunk.
I mean, that alone is enough, isn't it? Kenshiro mixing cocktails and telling you you're already drunk. That's enough for me. That's plenty. What more do you want? What more do you want? I suppose you do want more. The idea of this game is fiendishly clever. Take the studio responsible for the wonderful Yakuza series and give Fist of the North Star to them. It's so obviously a good idea that it's shocking this never happened sooner. But now we have Fist of the North Star, Lost Paradise, and it's exactly everything one could hope for. It's Yakuza starring Kenshiro. That's all it is. That's all it needs to be. With Yakuza 6 also out this year, I've got to have Fist of the North Star edge that out for the year-end honour, simply because the concept itself is friggin' incredible. Seriously, this is a dyed-in-the-wool, shamelessly full-bore Yakuza game. It's just set in the 80s manga apocalypse, where the biggest problems are always martial arts, and the solution is always more martial arts. Managing to successfully condense a ton of North Star storyline into one moderately sized city, Lost Paradise is ridiculous, hilarious, and utterly silly, like any good Yakuza game should be. And since Fist of the North Star is itself complete over-the-top nonsense, we are looking at a perfect marriage. Yakuza's combat system has always been delightfully cheesy and full of action movie stereotyping, which again makes it perfect. All they needed to do was add exploding heads and a few rhythm challenges to pull off iconic Hokuto Shinken techniques, which are pretty much always funny. You even get an announcer yelling the name of the moves each time. Hokuto! Fist of Penitence! You bastard! Because of course you do. Fighting is meaty and suitably brutal, and there's a whole host of mini-games for you to indulge in. From the aforementioned cocktail mixing to hostess club simulators, medical-themed music games, and plenty of vehicular races. Add to that a range of side quests that are utterly stupid in all the right ways, and you get exactly what the world needed. Yakuza, but with Kenshiro in it. Or, thanks to a free content update that came out after launch, you can play Yakuza with Kiryu in it, in the 80s manga apocalypse. Because fuck yes, this game is everything it needs to be, and a little bit more. And that's the Jimquisition Awards 2018. What a wonderful award show we have had. We've had surprises, we've had awards, we've had surprises, and next week we come to the pièce de résistance of 2018, the longest year that's ever been a year long, with the Jimquisition Top 10 Shittiest Video Games of All Time. Until next week, there are only 3 things you need to learn. That's that Dynasty Warriors 9 is shit, trans women are women, and thank God for me.